welcome to another edition of Tech Talk. We're here today with our special guest, Gianfranco Campetti. Gian is a member of the SABS Technical Committee, which deals with plugs and sockets. Welcome, Gian.
Thank you.
Today we're going to be discussing a new amendment to 164.0, which was issued in June this year. Marius, could you tell us a little bit more about 164.0? What is it exactly?
164.0 is a standard that covers the general requirements for plugs and sockets. We have 21 different combinations of plugs and sockets in South Africa. So this standard is a compulsory standard that all electrical equipment that you have in your house needs to comply to.
And John, why the new amendments?
Well, Sean, look, this committee, the technical committee, has various working groups. One of the working groups is the one that we head, and Marius is part of it, and it deals with plugs and sockets. And they meet once a month, and over the years, it's a maintenance effort to try and deal with issues that happen in the market. So, from time to time, amendments are published dealing with the changes that we have seen. Now, as Marius said, 164.0 are the general requirements, and there are another 6 parts, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and they have got specific requirements for each and every plug and socket. So the amendments that happened in June this year there's an amendment to do with adapters, which we're not going to cover now, but the main amendments has to do with the switching of socket outlets. So we will discuss that in detail in a few minutes' time.
Okay, great. So Marius, how will this impact us as Legrand?
Legrand has already made changes to comply to the amendments and the changes. For example, if we take the new monoblock with the USB, we have a switch that switches all. So your USB charger will be switched off, as well as the multiple socket outlets on the same faceplate, making us compliant. Jean, tell us a bit more about the switch issue and why has that become so important?
Well, the switch issue was something that was raised in the market, in the field, as it were, and we had a fatality. We had a fatality where this individual was working in a roof space, and he shouted down to his wife, "Go and switch off," and she had a typical one of the older sockets where there was some switched and unswitched on the same faceplate. She, of course, switched the switch off. He was plugged in here, and a fatality ensued. So we decided, okay, we'll spell that out now.
All about safety.
It's all about safety. So, although in South Africa you're allowed to have unswitched socket like this, and if you do have a switch, then you've got an option according to the table that you'll see there that you either switch everything off or each individual socket by itself.
And let's remember, in South Africa it's habit to have a switch. It's convenient with our lightning storms. It's nice to go and switch your TV off. It might just save the electronics from the surge coming through your systems.
So what about sockets that you have already installed in your home that don't comply?
Yes, well, Sean, the wiring code, which also is a very, very active work group, part of the same SABS technical committees, although a different one, they also meet almost on a monthly basis. And they react not only to the market requirements, but in a whole installation, in a home or an office or a factory, things change all the time. You've got new machines, new technologies, you've got solar, you've got all sorts of stuff. And back in 2017, they made a change to the clause dealing with plug and sockets or socket outlets. And they said in that clause that by January 2018, all new buildings will have to include a 164 Part 2 socket outlet on all socket outlet points. So wherever you had a socket outlet point, you had to have one of these sockets. Now, the wiring code is not retrospective, except in very few instances. So as long as your installation was wired before January 2018, whatever you've got installed, as long as it's working, is quite safe, and of course you can continue with that. Obviously, in South Africa, we don't have many opportunities to refurbish. In Europe, it's different. Europe, people trash the whole inside of an apartment and they just redo everything. Not only the wallpaper, the carpets, and all the wiring accessories.
Yes.
So what I'm saying is that in South Africa, where you do add on, you have an opportunity of using some of the later products.
Let's be honest, it's exactly, you would love this next to your bed, wouldn't you?
And your wife, the side of the wife bed, and the kids, and the kitchen. So that's an opportunity. You're not forced to do this, but I think it's a natural, how can I say, it's a human nature thing to have a better sort of living standard. So although it's not retrospective, you don't have to do this. There will be a time where people will buy it and then they'll ask the electrician to fit it.
And also remember that the new plug is safer than the old standard.
Absolutely, absolutely, and we can expand on that. You see, the problem with the old British, this was a British standard, by the way. The problem is that this is called a flat face socket. Many countries have got a flat face socket. This is a well, and many countries have got a well. So a flat face socket, the pins on entry, especially with small fingers or elderly people, they tend to touch the live and neutral on the way in. Of course, that gives you a nasty belt. Yes. And that cannot happen here. Here we've got 3 levels of protection. You've got the shutter, which this also has, by the way, but you can open this with a pencil, you can shove it into the earth pin, and the 2 shutters are conduit here. Here you need 2 pins to touch the shutter at the same time before the plug will enter. And as you enter with the plug, it starts entering the well, you will not touch those pins. And on top of it, the pins have got a little sleeve. So this is like a triple protection. It's really a wonderful product that we've developed. We developed it, South Africa developed it, because although this was an IEC standard, it suited them not to complete it. So the original IEC standard is incomplete.
Okay.
And unfortunately, we were the first country to adopt it.
And it stayed with us.
And it stayed with us, but we had to then fix it.
Right.
So
ultimately becoming the world's safest socket outlet.
Yeah, we believe so. And remember, it's all type A wiring code. So the wiring code says all socket outlets have to be protected by an earth leak protection unit.
Correct.
So honestly, I think South Africa is in a very good position. And this extends to all our communities. You know, the ready board that goes into a shack, which has barely got 4 walls and a roof, that ready board, which has also changed over the years, now it has a side where you pay for the electricity, whether you have a card or a push button.
Yes.
And on the other side, you've got your protection box, which has got earth leakage, circuit breakers, it's got a light, and it's got a socket, but it's disconnected from it. So the shack owner, if he builds an additional room, he can extend the socket, or he can extend it right around his room. There too, you have earth leakage protection.
Safety.
It's safety.
Why the switch on the USB though?
So that's an interesting question. So the switch on the USB started by introducing electronics into fixed installations.
Okay.
So it became problematic to do a insulation resistance test. A electrician would come and he would want to do an insulation resistance test, and there's various electronics connected, of which one would be this USB charger.
Yes.
That gives a false reading, and second to that, he can damage the electronics because you test at double nominal voltage. So it gives you the opportunity now, because of this change in the standard, to switch it off. So it's convenient, one, for the guy doing the installation test, and secondly, Jean, it's better to leave this off.
Yes, look, it's an electronic circuit, it's a switch mode power supply. It's got electronic components that work at 220 volts or 230 volts, and they oscillate at 20,000 cycles per second. So whether you've got something plugged in there or not, this thing is buzzing away at 20,000 beats per second.
So when not in use, switch off.
Makes sense.
Absolutely.
Makes sense. Although it's not a big current saving, you're just saving a lifetime of that little electronic device.
It will live longer.
Yeah, which is so useful. I mean, you know, you've got that next to your bed. Sure, your charger sits in your bag that you take to work with you, and you can plug your phone, your wife's phone, the kids have got their stuff plugged in, and it's all very convenient. Yeah.
True.
So that switch has made a difference, at least I think so.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for joining us today, Jean. We really
Pleasure.
appreciate your input. Thank you, Marius.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everyone, for joining
Cheers.
us. We look forward to seeing you next time.
Cheers.
Cheers
See
for
you
now.
next time.
Cheers.
Cheerio.